What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Marshall and behind me is Elizabeth, my 1951 Dodge Coronet that we are swapping onto a 2003 Ford Crown Vic chassis. So in the last episode, we did a bunch of fab work. We got rockers about complete. In the meantime, I've done a bunch more work, got the other side rockers completely done. Those have been a lot of work, so I'm happy to have those pretty well all complete there. So in this episode, we're working on the wiper system. So I'll show you some parts that we've got and why I've decided to work on this next. All right, so this is the stock wiper system off the Coronet. There's a couple reasons that we cannot use it. One, it's 6 volt, where obviously the Crown Vic, everything modern, is 12 volt. And the other thing is, the way this mounts, it's up underneath the dash, so everything is underneath the dash. Linkages and everything here. The other thing is, which is different from normal wiper systems, where most wipers obviously go both the same direction. These go opposite. So in the center, they go out and back in like that. So for those reasons, main thing, 6 volt, can't use the Coronet one. So second option, using the setup from the Crown Vic. The problem is, obviously this is a big, bulky linkage. The motor's mounted to that, and I did do a little bit of test fitting. Unfortunately, it just does not fit well up underneath the dash, and also, like I mentioned, the wipers go the same way, so can't use the Crown Vic system. So we have a box, and hopefully in this box is our solution. So I'm gonna lay these parts out, go over it, and how it should fix our problem. All right, so this is a kit made by a company called Specialty Power Windows, and this is a universal kit designed for hot rods, some muscle cars, street rods, that kind of thing. So kind of the basics of what we've got. We obviously have our motor here, and it is 2 speeds, so we'll have high, low, and park. And the plan is to hopefully integrate it so that we can use the stock Crown Vic switch on the column to control that. So how this system works, it uses a flexible coil drive cable like that, and that's what drives it. This cable runs inside these aluminum tubes, and these we can cut and bend to suit our needs, and then the motor will mount remotely, and the motor gets mounted in this metal box inside of here. And there's some other parts in here, a drive wheel, some linkages and hardware for that. So the cable runs through the metal tubing, and then these parts here it's gonna be really hard to see, but they have little gears inside, and the cables run in this side and out the other, and then drive these the shafts here through a gear, and that's what makes the wipers go back and forth. Now, like I'd mentioned, and we've got 2 of these, like I'd mentioned, the wipers need to go opposite ways. So one will get mounted like this, one will get mounted upside down, that way they drive opposite directions. And these shafts we can shorten to make fit. And so that's really the main part of the kit. In theory, at least, it should be pretty simple. So we'll kind of start mocking stuff up, figuring out where stuff is going to go, and yeah, let's get started. All right, so how this goes together and how the motor mounts to this box here is there's a cover over the top that comes off. That's like that. The motor installs from the back, but this black plastic ring has a little step in it, so that fits over that. It's like that, and then screws go down from the top. Just like that. They catch on the outer edge there, and then this is actually clockable to mount it different ways. So that's what that's like. And then, let's see if we can figure out the rest of it here. All right, so then the drive cable has this little block at the end with a hole in it, which fits into that slot there. And then the wheel goes on like that and fits into that notch like that. And then as that rotates around, that pushes the cable back and forth. All right, so after much deliberation, I have finally decided that I'm going to mount the wiper motor right here on the firewall like that. So I drilled some holes here, and we are going to put in some 1/4-inch riv nuts or thread inserts. So how you do this, you take the tool, thread it onto there like that, stick it into the hole and squeeze it, tighten a little more, squeeze again. And now we have an insert there, so we're going to put another one there and 2 over here. All right, so we use this supplied mount. I put the 1/4-inch bolts through this plate into the riv nuts, and then I stuck some small screws from the back side out and tightened this down. So now we slide this cover on. It might be a little bit fiddly. Just like that. Take the little nuts that came with it, spin those on, turn the light on here. There.
take our motor, and hopefully it just slides into place here. Alright, so I ended up having to pull this apart, put some washers in behind here and space it out a little bit. So now it's in place. And the cool thing about this motor is the way it's designed, you can actually turn it and clock it wherever you want. So it'll either be in there, unless I decide to flip it over for some reason and put it there. So now I'm going to work on some of the tubing that'll run in this side. It runs along here and back inside the car. Alright, so each end of these tubes need a single flare on them. So I'm using a Eastwood brake flaring tool. So we take the tube, stick it down in here, put the dies like that. And then the first operation is pushes it flush with the die. Basically just puts it in the right position for the flaring. So it's 3/8 tubing, and we just want a single flare. We put a little bit of lubricant on that. And just pull the handle. And being a little bit careful with it, this aluminum tubing is soft, so we don't want to crack the ends. So, see it there? Nice single flare like that. So we just got to do that for the other end as well. Alright, so how this transmission here goes together, I reused some stock parts from the Coronet, which were these pieces. This piece goes up underneath the dash. This one is outside, and it puts the wiper transmissions at the correct angle for the wipers. So how it goes together. This is the transmission that has the wiper here. I cut both the threaded part and the inner sleeve to the correct length. This is the backing plate that goes onto it like that. And then right in these grooves here is where those flared ends of the tubes fit in each side. And then the gear in there is what engages with the drive cable and makes the wipers work. So, and this is on the inside of the car, underneath the dash. So there is that piece, the inner piece like that. This fits up through the cowl to the outside. The outer piece fits on like that. Then there's a washer and a nut. If I can get it on. Anyway, the nut goes on like that. And then there's a little blind sleeve here that slides over that, and the end of the shaft is keyed, so it slides in there, and then the wiper goes slides onto the sleeves just like that. Alright, so I have test fitted the cable. I cut it to length. So now I'm going to grease it up good, and we're going to start sliding it into the tubing.
so it took some adjustments in the holes here. You can adjust it to a different hole with this rod, and it'll adjust the sweep angle for the wipers. So it took some trial and error to get it in the right spot. So I think we are in a good spot here. So I don't have the wiring all hooked up. I just have a 12-volt source here. So we're going to power it up, and you can see it move. Low speed. High speed. And park. So now I just need to grease the moving parts in here, reinstall it, and then we'll move on to working on the actual wiring itself to work with the Crown Vic switch inside, hopefully. All right, so last night I got, as you saw, the wiper motor all put together, and I started looking at the wiring and what it was going to take to fit the wiring up to the wiper motor. And as I ran through the features of the Crown Vic, I thought, you know what, it would be really nice to have all the delays in the wipers and all the multiple speeds as well. So I did a little modifying, and now with the factory switch, we have slow speed delay, second speed delay, third, fourth, fifth, continuous, slow speed, continuous, high speed, and windshield washer. So I'll pull stuff back apart and show you what I did to modify the stock Crown Vic wiper motor to work with this. All right, so how we got this to work. The Crown Vic mounting holes were different than the one that came with the wiper kit. They're farther apart. So what I did, I used part of the bracket that was originally on the Crown Vic wiper system that had the mounting holes here. So I trimmed the bracket and used a piece of exhaust tubing right in here and welded that to this piece and the existing wiper bracket here. I made myself kind of a homemade little jig to get this centered properly in there. So now the bracket fits over the wiper motor like that. I primed this, I still have to paint it, so. So like that. The
wheel here we reused, and it had a taper fit that fit over the taper here on the original wiper motor, and then it had a nut that threaded on here, and that's what held it on. So the Crown Vic one was not tapered, didn't have splines. It simply uses a screw at the end of it. So I shortened the shaft and then drilled out the center hole of the wheel and drilled and tapped, if you can see it, drilled and tapped through here and put a set screw to hold it in place. And I'll still put a little dimple or a flat area right here on the shaft to hold it in place there. So the wheel drops, set screw out. Drops in place like that. Then the center screw. Like that. Then there's just enough room on this side to get the screwdriver in for the set screw. So yeah, it mounts up just like that. And then this part of the bracket fits back in the stock location. And then just bolts right back on like the original did. So those are the modifications I made to get this to fit. The stock wipers, or sorry, the wiring just plugs right back in there. No modifying the wiring or switch or anything, that's all stock. So if I ever have to replace this down the road, I can just get a replacement Crown Vic motor and then modify the shaft slightly. Alright guys, that is a wrap on this episode. Now that we have the wipers pretty well done, we can move on to reassembling the dash, putting that back in. Obviously the wipers had to be done because they were up underneath the dash there where we couldn't get to them after the dash was in. So happy to have this job done. It was definitely a lot of work, a bit tedious, but in the end I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm happy that I put the little extra effort into getting all the intermittent speeds to work. That's going to make it a lot nicer. We'll be able to use the washer fluid, so we'll have to put some nozzles in for that at some point. So that is it for this episode. Thank you for everyone watching. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next episode.